When I got signed to Carnival, I was the youngest featured performer in the entire cruise industry. It is not a young guy's game because cruise industries in the entertainment world are notoriously the hardest industry to get into.
Wow.
People that love magic and they don't care about the secret, you just appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
Those type of people tend to carry that into all other aspects of their life. Magic though, and that's 100% an art form, but a lot of people don't give it credit. Psychics and mediums are more respected than we are. I really think it's going to be hard for a superstar to come from magic now because magic is so easily accessible. You can go on Instagram, type in magic trick, 3,000 guys you've never seen or heard of pop up on your feed. And some of them do this crazy visual stuff in their bedroom, but that's it. They can't really perform for groups of people. They can't really perform on stage, but they've mastered how to perform to a camera alone. And that's what magic is becoming now.
All right. Well, welcome, Dan. Yeah, man. So you're a mentalist.
I am indeed.
What's a mentalist?
Long story short, it's like a magician, but my tricks are themed around psychology and the mind and other things that are kind of weird and unexplainable like that.
So, I mean, what does a mentalist do exactly? Like, what do you do as a mentalist?
Well, so I'll just give you a basic example. So like if I'm doing a card trick, for example, a magician, he'll tell you pick a card, the card goes back, and then he'll find it magically. You know, a mentalist would tell you just to think about the card and then through a like short verbal process, figure out what it is. So like some examples of things that I do is like, you know, something that was really popular for me when I was younger is I could guess how much money's in someone's pocket within like $3. Men always used to really like that trick. I guess the name of like your best friend from when you're younger. Just a lot of weird stuff. I mean, I use like what looks like body language to kind of read people and figure things out. It is kind of hard to explain. But what I always tell people is mentalist is like a magician, but I use a combination of sleight of hand, showmanship, psychology, memory, and sometimes just flat out lying.
Yeah.
And that's how I do what I do.
It's funny, man. So when we met, first day we met, we were at a real estate event, I think. And I remember you were real chill.
Yeah.
With a buddy of mine, Shindy. And I don't know how we ended up talking about what we do, but we had that conversation.
Yeah.
And then you asked me to pick a number. And I remember walking through my head. I think you said pick a number between 1 and...
I said 1 and 100, yeah.
100, and I initially chose 72, I remember. I was like, 72. Then I was like, let me change it last minute.
Yeah.
In case he could read minds. And I ended up doing 8. And I mean, I know for you that's probably like a simple trick, but as an observer who's going through the motion of the thinking in my mind and thinking I'm like tricking you and like, and then to see you picked a number that I kind of, you know, it kind of like
came to you, right?
Last minute change was amazing. And then we got to talking. And so, I thought that was amazing. Then I found out and just kind of doing my own research and getting to know you better.
Yeah.
That you perform on like cruise ships and you travel because of this. So like, can you talk about your experiences there?
Yeah, for sure. Well, what you touched on too is something I think is important for why I love mentalism and why it's different than magic because of that journey you went through in your own mind. Yeah. You know, most magic, it's like you're just here to watch, you know, like pick a card out, you're just going to watch, you know, do whatever, the coin, you're going to watch it, do what it does. But with mentalism, it's so much more interactive and it's like mental because it's almost like a game, you know, because I tell you to think of something and I ask you a few questions and that kind of thing. But in your mind, there's a whole nother story going on and there's a whole nother, you know, thing. And that's what makes it interesting for me too, because it's different every time. Not everyone says 8 every time.
Yeah.
You know, it's different. So why people pick the things they do, the numbers or the names or whatever, like that's what makes it interesting and interactive. And that's why I always tell my clients is like, when I'm talking to people on the phone before they book me, is that it's completely dependent on you and the people. So that's what makes it interesting. Because at the end of the day, no matter what industry you're in, I've learned that people just want to talk about themselves.
Yes.
So, so like whatever, you know, numbers or names or meaning or hobbies, whatever, people can't wait to tell me. And that's why when I can use that information and be entertaining with it, that's what makes it interesting. But yeah, so I do cruises, that kind of thing. I've been a featured performer for Carnival Cruise Line since I was 20, I think. So 2017-ish, something like that. And I've literally been all over the world. I mean, everywhere in the Caribbean multiple times, Alaska, Hawaii, Guam, Barcelona. Those are really cool. I mean, I do big shows in the theaters for hundreds of people and, you know, there's nothing like that on land. So I love doing that. When I'm home, I do mostly corporate stuff now. I used to do a lot of more private parties, events, but I've worked for like Google and Harley Davidson, Coca-Cola. There's a bunch of, you know, randoms because every year there's a whole lot of corporate companies for like Christmas or for the quarterly meeting. They're like, let's do something different this year.
Yeah.
Let's have a mentalist. And then
it's dope because, I mean, talk about all your travels, and you're a boy from Baltimore.
Yes, sir.
Can you talk about like your origins and kind of like you got into all of this?
So I grew up in Baltimore, and just outside the city. We moved when I was like 8, but the influence is still strong. And yeah, it's just a different type of people are from Baltimore. I've learned, like, just definitely real hard nosed, like, hardworking people. And yeah, I went to a pretty rough school when I was growing up. It's a little bit better now. They got a new building once I got older, and they cleaned up the staff and everything like that, and they got security, on point. But it used to be pretty rough, and it was the type of place where, like, when I remember as a freshman walking into the bathroom every day, there were multiple bathrooms where you'd walk in and people were shooting dice on the floor. And it was like cash was on the ground. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, like they're actually gambling in here.
It's high school?
Yeah, it was high school. I was 14. And you just had to kind of like go to the urinal and just ignore it. You know what I mean? Like, you just had to walk in and just act like this is normal. And, so when you're around that type of atmosphere a lot, it definitely shapes you, in little ways, like personality, but also just like day to day. So, when I started doing magic, I was 14, and I started learning card tricks off of YouTube. That's how I first started. But in reality, I mean, I don't know if you want the full story or like, I think that's what we're here for.
That's why we're here, bro.
All right, cool. So
I'm basically just nosy, man. That's
I appreciate it. So full story is I was always a football player. And when I played rec, my dad was one of the coaches, and I was always, one of the better guys on the team. I was always like team captain. I played offensive line and linebacker. And when I got to high school, I was still a little undersized, I would guess, for like JV. Like, I used to be short and fatter. And when I got to high school, I was just a weird shape. And long story short, I didn't make JV when I was 14. And I was devastated. I was like, I didn't even consider that I would not make the team. And literally all my friends made it. So then it got to the point where we'd be in classes and they're talking about practice and all the funny stuff that happened, whatever. And I just felt kind of like left out and alone because I couldn't relate. So I went through a midlife crisis at 14. I specifically remember I was in the shower and I was just having one of those deep, like, sit there in the water moments. And I was like, what am I good at? Because I was like, I had friends that were better than me at video games. I had friends clearly that were better than me at football. I felt like I didn't have my own thing. So I was like searching. I was like, what can my thing be? So I didn't know what it was, but one day I'm sitting in the back of geometry class. Shout out Mr. Chang if for whatever reason you see this. He actually wasn't there that day, but we had a substitute. So basically it was just a free for all, like in the class, like no one was doing anything. And there was these 2 seniors that were sitting in the desks right in front of me, and they were seniors in a freshman year geometry class. You can already get an idea what kind of guys these guys were. They're the ones that were in the bathroom shooting dice from that crowd. They were playing this game where one of them had a coin and he put it behind his back, and then the other guy had to guess what hand it was in. It's like a kid's game. Everybody knows that. But they were playing for money. They were playing like $1 if I'm right, or I'll pay you if I'm wrong. And I remember sitting there and I could see, like, from the angle, the guy that had the coin. And all he did was every time he put his hands behind his back, whatever hand the other guy said, he would just bring that one out empty and then drop the coin on the chair with the other hand. Or, like, you know what I mean? So he would just, like, it wasn't even a good hustle. He would just say, he'd hold it in like both hands, and whatever hand he said, he'd be like, nope. And then he'd like bring it out. But I sat there and watched for like 10 minutes and he won like 20 games in a row.
From cheating,
just hustling this dude. And I remember thinking to myself, well, that's not even a good way to do it. I would do it like this. So I was already thinking of ways I could improve the trick. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I'm smarter than he is, obviously. Like, so if he could be out here hustling people, I could do it way better. And so I went home that day and I went on my grandmom's computer and I Googled how to hustle people. And I learned a couple little games, like little, card trick or follow the queen, 3-card money, whatever. And then I saw a video teaching a card trick and it said, earn lots of money with this card trick. That was the title. Like, that's why I'm here. And I learned it and I did it to my grandmom, and she was like, what are you going to be, a card sharp? And something about cards, I just liked the way they felt in my hands. And keep in mind though, I was 14, so I didn't have a way to make money yet. Like, I didn't have a job. The only time I made money was from Christmas and holidays. And I'd see these guys, these hustlers around school, they're making $65, $75, sometimes $100 a day.
In school.
Just hustling people in school. I was like, they had a hot side hustle and I'm like, damn, like I could be making money. What am I doing? Like, so that was like kind of the big inspiration. But I liked cards. I liked the way they felt in my hands. It kind of came natural to me. And I liked something about magic. I liked the secrecy of it. So I just kept learning more and more and practicing on my own, all that kind of thing. And then one day I'm playing with cards in the back of class. He started taking them to school with me every day. And I'm playing with him. This girl sitting next to me in Miss Barletta's Spanish class. She's like, why do you have cards? And I'd never done a trick for someone outside my family before. So I was like, oh, pick a card. And I was so nervous. And I did this like terrible trick for her, but she freaked out. Like she screamed, like literally screamed and jumped. And she screamed so loud actually that the entire class jumped too. And then my teacher, Miss Barletta, who was writing on the, back when they had whiteboards before smart boards, she was writing on the whiteboard. She jumped so hard, the marker in her hand like flew out of her hand. And everybody turned around to see what happened, obviously. And she's like, he just did this crazy magic trick. And for the first time, I had all eyes on me. And you get this like adrenaline rush the first time. And that was like, it was over after that. Like I was like, I like this. I need it more. So that just fueled me to keep learning more and more. And I started gaining a little reputation around school. I would only practice and, in classes. And then fast forward next year. So my life completely changed from freshman year to sophomore year. And this is when it like everything kind of, blew up for me. Am I talking too much? I want you to get.
The more you talk, the better, man.
All right.
Yeah. Just tell your story, bro.
Yeah. So this is
I'm supposed to just be listening. I'll chime in, but
the
dope story.
The big change for me, like everything changed between that freshman year and sophomore year because I finally found a talent. Like I found something I was like, oh, this could be my thing. And like I said, I started getting a reputation. I'd be doing it in all my classes to people, and I practiced really hard too. So I was decently good. I think what also helped was my dad was really hard on me. He's just that type of guy. So when I would practice to him, he wouldn't just be like the type of parent that'd be like, oh, you're so great.
Yeah.
He'd be like, I saw what you did with the little, what I mean? Like he would just like shut it down and just make me feel like crap. So I would get mad and I would practice even harder.
Yeah.
So he couldn't catch me the next trick I showed him, But then sometimes I learned though too, because I would show him and then if I did fool him a little bit, I get really excited and I'm like, oh, it works like this. And then I teach him how it works.
Yeah.
But then he's getting smarter with me. So then instead of just like, he uses that against me, the next time I show him a trick, it's like, well, I know you did that. It's like, well, yeah, because I told you how it works. What do you mean? Like, I'm not showing you just because of that. So anyway, I had to practice even harder because of my dad. But anyway, I started getting a little reputation around school. But then during the summer, I hit my growth spurt. So I grew like 6 inches. I thinned out. I used to have hair down my shoulders, cut that all off. And I was doing pre-season workouts with the football team.
Turned to an F-boy.
Yeah. Like, well, I got preseason workouts. So I was doing, 3 days a week for 4 or 5 weeks before 2 days even started, before like the actual football, just to like really get in there. And then I actually ended up making JV team captain after getting cut the year before. So like I came back and then made captain. But then in school, like I started noticing girls were looking at me differently now because I'm taller and I like cleaned myself up a little bit. And then I got really good at magic. I was still practicing magic all summer too. So then I went from doing classrooms to then I started doing magic tricks in the cafeteria every day. And then it became like, it started off with just my table and then I'd start doing one and then more people would come and more people would come. And it got to the point where pretty much every day or every other day, I was surrounded with like 50 people doing tricks. And I didn't know what to do other than like, I saw that's what David Blaine did. So I was like, oh, I'm just trying to be like him. So I went from being surrounded, and the first bunch of times I did it too, like the assistant principals, like they would think a fight's happening. They'd be on the other side of the cafeteria. They just see a big group of kids going, oh, and they think there's a fight happening. So they run through, bust it up, and then they see just me standing there with a deck of cards. And they learned after, a couple of times, it's just Dan, but my confidence then just started going through the roof too. Cause it's like, damn, girls are paying attention to me now. I got this cool talent that gets me like attention I've never experienced before. Cause I was always shy and socially awkward when I was younger. I never experienced what being like popular was. And then people that I didn't know started knowing who I was. Or just like, oh, it's the dude that does magic or whatever. And that's when it really changed for me. I started doing journalism, and then we can get back to that. But then I started doing it like on TV for like the whole school, or the new building that we got was like, I was part of the morning announcements and they were televised. So we had a segment called Magic Monday. So I went from just classrooms to 60 people a day at lunch to then 1,700 people live, like every Monday for Magic Monday is what we called it. And again, all this was with my dad, still being hard on me, and, he was the hardest person to fool. But in reality, it was a blessing though, because like I went to a tough school. is the type of place where if you're holding a card like secretly in your hand, you know what I mean, and someone sees it from this bad angle, they're not going to let you finish the trick. They're going to be like, hey, yo, I see that card, you know? So you had to get really good because there was a lot at stake. And to be honest with you, I mean, I've performed for way bigger audiences and for, at this point, since high school, I mean, literally thousands and thousands of more people just from doing it professionally. And I still don't perform in situations that are as like high stakes and as nerve wracking as how I did in high school. Like, and I think that really set me apart because when I got older, graduated, I started being around other magicians and stuff. Even when I was 16, I went to like a magic school for the first time. It's like one of the biggest ones in the world. And they actually have it right in Pennsylvania every year. And I just could see immediately. I'm like, oh, like I was actually like above most of the kids my age. I was like, cause y'all aren't performing in the situations that I'm in. Like you're not testing yourself the way I'm tested like every day. And that to me was when I really was like, oh, I could actually keep doing this. Like I see that I'm actually good at this. Like, cause I had no idea when I first went, I'd never been around other magicians before. I didn't know how good I was. I didn't have anything to compare it to other than, you know, David Blaine or Chris Angel or whoever.
So do you, so it sounds like your motivation back then was kind of, I want to be somebody. It's high school, you know, it's, you know, and then you kind of become this person that you kind of shaped in your mind almost by accident.
For sure.
But what is the motivation now for you to, when you're up on stage talking to thousands of people?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right. I mean, I think it did happen by accident, but then when I started seeing the traction and seeing this could be something, then I really did start focusing more on who I wanted to be and who I wanted to create, you know. And now when I'm performing, it varies because to be honest, like it's unfortunate, but I think it's real too. And it's like life. I don't feel that way or that like that guy when I'm working for corporate companies, you know what I mean? Like when I'm doing, you know, Google's like event where they're hosting all of the top software engineers in the country, you know what I mean? Like you don't feel like that you're just there, you know, to do the thing. And they're all like, you know, just very skeptical and they, you know, they have fun or whatever, but it's like, it's hard to like connect to that energy when you're doing it as a job, you know, and for companies where they are just hiring you because you're part of they have X amount of budget and they want to do something interesting this year. But when I do it on cruise ships, that is a little bit different because that is a stage show. That's hundreds of people that are there just to see me. It's not like corporate events where I'm just part of what they have planned. And that's different because every single moment of that show came from my brain. Like from the graphics that are behind me on the giant screen to the music that's playing is mine, original music that I've paid people to design. Like every word in the script for every trick that I use is mine. So that's different. And that's really still the only time I get to like dream in a way. Like when I'm not on stage is like sit and think about like, what do they want? Yeah. Like, what do they want to see?
There's a vision for it.
Yeah. And then, and being able to put it to life and come up with new ideas and then tinker with it and practice and change things and like, oh, that didn't really work. What if I did this instead? And that's to me is what still keeps the creative juices flowing.
Because for a lot of creatives, that's the part that they don't like. Like they like just being up on stage. Like I just enjoy this. Yeah. The behind the scenes, the setting up, the thinking about questions, the even thinking about like timelines is. I wish I could just show up to this table and just start having conversations.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, to be honest, like the stage is the best part. Oh, like, but like that's the thing with magic though. And that's why it's 100% an art form, what magicians and mentalists do. And a lot of people don't give it credit for art form. And, you know, most people don't, to be honest. I mean, psychics and mediums are more respected than we are in a crazy backwards way. But mentalism and magic, like it is multiple art forms, really. It's a cerebral art form. Like it's mental because you have to think about it. Like you have to think about the vision and what people see. And when you're doing tricks, what you're seeing and what's going on in my head are two different things. So it's literally two things happening simultaneously. It's a physical art form because you have to have dexterity. You have to be doing things with your hands and whatever. There's a lot that goes into being a good performer. Then you have to have stage presence and charisma because you're literally keeping everyone's attention for an hour. And just by talking, especially me, like a lot of magicians, they have whole tricks that are just 5-6 minutes that are to music and it's just visual you can watch. A mentalist, I have to talk pretty much the whole time. So it it's a lot of skill sets combined into one, and it's definitely an art form that requires a lot.
So you mentioned energy a few times. Just in the last few minutes. What have you learned about, or I don't even know if this is the right question, but I know when we talked before, you mentioned that there are like 400 different types of people. I think so. This is kind of what you observe in your travels. I guess it's kind of related to that, because I want to talk about that too. But what are you able to, and it doesn't have to be mystical, but do you feel like you're a person who senses energy? So you talk about, obviously, you know, when you're on stage, you can sense the energy of the crowd, but I would guess that part of what you're doing, it's definitely not just reading people. As you mentioned, there's so many different things involved, but part of it is reading people, right? Is there something beyond just like mannerisms? Are you like feeding into energy in a way, or?
Yeah, energy is a tricky thing, and there's people that are a lot more versed on energy than I am, like from a scientific perspective. Like there are people who genuinely study it and can like quantify it. I do try to feel it when I can, but it's hard for me, you know, even for me. Like I really consciously try to connect to energy, and not just other people, but just the energy of the universe. But it's something that you need to, like anything, I believe at least, you need to like practice and do it consistently. And it's hard sometimes in life and things like that get in the way. But with people with energy, I mean, I always say I can tell the type of person you are based on how you react to magic tricks. Okay. Like I believe that.
Give me an example.
Like, like if I do a trick for somebody and they're just like, yeah, okay. Like, you know what I mean? As opposed to someone's like, yeah, like it's fun, because in reality, it's people that love magic and they don't care about the secret. They're obviously my favorite. You know, it's like, that's why we do it. But it just shows that you're the type of person who you just love that feeling of, you know, being fooled, or just joy, or just, you know, the chemical reaction literally that happens in your brain when you experience a magic trick, and you don't care about anything else. You just appreciate it for what it is. And those type of people tend to carry that into all other aspects of their life, because we'll never really know how everything works. You know what I mean? I don't know the ins and outs of this microphone. I could not tell you how it does what it does. And I don't care. And that's okay. Like, you're not going to know how everything works, but I appreciate it. And whoever invented microphone technology, kudos to them, because they're geniuses and you change the world. But it's having that type of mentality. Is just like, you don't have to know how everything works. Just appreciate things for what they are. But the type of person, engineers specifically, always like this. Engineers will watch it and they don't care about anything except figuring it out. Like, it's just, it's a puzzle to them. You know, and that tells me how their brain works. It's like, you just want to know how everything works, and you like to sometimes, you know, most of the time be in control. And some people are insecure about getting fooled by something also, which I don't understand personally, but some people don't like not knowing how something works. I think magicians have a little bit to do with it in the past too. There's been a lot of bad magicians who have done things to give magic a bad name, and they kind of antagonize the people that they do tricks for, because, oh, I'm so smart, and, you know, whatever. Like, and some people from past experiences or seeing guys on TV, they don't resonate with that. So they think that it is a mental, like, insult or something, that when you do a trick and they don't know how it works, it's like, they think that I'm doing it because I only want to fool them to show that I'm smarter than them or something. And that's not how it works at all, you know, but some people feel that way. But then again, it tells me how, if you think that about me doing a magic trick to you, you probably take other intellectual things personally too. And, you know, it like I said, you can see it a lot, but I can definitely tell the people who don't care how it works and they just like watching tricks and can't get enough, like, they just see the world through a different lens, and they typically are just happier people.
Positive people.
Yeah, and I wish I could be more like them sometimes, honestly. Like, but yeah.
Nice, man. So when you talk, can you talk about the 400 personality types? Obviously,
right.
Just, I guess, giving an idea, like, what does that even,
where
does it come from? And what are your observations
when it
comes to people?
Right. So the most predictable human belief is the belief that we're not predictable. Like, everyone thinks that they have this distinct personality type and there's no one else in the world like them. And I used to think that too. But in reality, we all think very, very similar about things. You know, there's a reason things are the way they are, you know, and human beings, we are a lot alike. Now, obviously, there are things like hobbies and that kind of thing different, but something I mentioned to you in one of our previous talks is that in my experience, and again, I've performed for literally tens of thousands of people, not just on stage, but up close is honestly where I've performed more in my life, just, you know, really up close and personal. And at these type of private corporate events where I get to not only do tricks, but I'm actually talking to you. I'm meeting people. And when I do what I do, I ask people about themselves, what their hobbies are, their favorite colors, where do you go to school, that kind of thing, because it helps me do what I do. So I've met a lot of people and listened to how a lot of people think. And in my opinion, I would say there's only probably about 400 distinct personality types, meaning that everything, even down to the mannerisms, like the way they move their hands when they talk or whatever, like I've seen it before. Like every event, I'll run into at least two people that I'm like, I remember someone just like you from that event I did in, years ago at this whatever. And it can just be so subtle. I don't put a whole thing into it, but just in my experience, there are so many people that are so similar in the way that they act and speak. And, I really still haven't fleshed out how to put that into words, but like, it is interesting to me that I meet people all the time where I'm like, I've met someone exactly like you before.
Man. You're in a unique position where you are. I mean, do you know anybody who does what you do outside of like any person in your life, but outside of people you meet at these events and things, or maybe in a community? Yeah, man, it's an extraordinary thing to be a person just who travels and just meets a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And so it's really, you have like a super unique perspective, man. And it's funny because, I know I've walked around for years thinking I was unique and my problems were unique and, the way I thought was unique. But, the older you get, the more you meet people who are like-minded. But I would imagine it's like an accelerated track for you, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we are all still unique in a lot of ways. It's like even those people that have the same mannerisms or literally say certain words in a weird way that I've only ever heard that other person say it. Obviously their brother is going to have a different name. Obviously they played a different sport in high school or something, but like there's a thing in my business called psychological forces. And it's essentially, they're little tricks that we use, it's never like a feature trick. It's just kind of like sprinkles that you throw in to, make what you do seem more believable. But they all rely on the concept of when you box people into certain parameters, we all kind of have the same tendencies. So for example, the classic one, I'll do it for you now. It may work, it may not, but like think of a number from 1 to 10. Was it 7?
No.
Or was it 8?
It was 8.
Yeah. Well, that's because you said 8 earlier. You talked about the number thing. Most people are psychologically influenced to say 7 because lucky number 7, well, it's something that can't be really quantified, but it's just it's a number that is just by culture and the universe is thrown at us more importantly or with more weight than any other number. Another example is think of a number from 1 to 5. We'll do 1 to 5 this time. Okay. Did you go for 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's less choices, but there's also a little bit of psychology involved in that because I say think of a number from 1 to 5. So you're saying 1, 2, and 5. Like so 3 and 4 are the only ones I didn't verbally say, and 4 is too close to the end, so most people tend to go for 3.
It's funny because 3 popped up in my mind.
Yeah, and 3 is another one. Again, it's just for some, reason in society, people tend to go for 3. Another, those are just the number ones. There's ones if I actually think of a color, what would it be? Would it be blue?
Purple.
Purple. Okay. If you tell people, this is a little trick that works sometimes, like think of 2 simple shapes, like a, square or rectangle, put one inside the other, and then give them both their own color.
Their own color?
Yeah. Okay. But not purple. But did you think of a circle and a triangle?
I thought of a circle and a square.
Square. Interesting. And then red and blue are typically
the circle was red, the square was yellow.
Yellow. Okay. So again,
but still, the fact that you can narrow.
That's why I said though, it's like, these things don't hit 100%. And that's why, they're never like the feature trick. But if anybody was watching this, I guarantee probably at least, half the people or 25% of anybody that did that in their head while I was doing it, that's probably what they ended up on. Just because there are certain colors, numbers, things that people will just naturally go for if you squeeze them. If you say, think of a city somewhere outside of the US, most people will say like Paris or London, just because it's like, you can't really explain why, but like it just is. And there's a lot of things like that. So that's the type of psychology I'm interested in. And people always ask me, did you go to school for psychology? And I didn't. I took one class, but I did the one class and then I moved on to different field because it wasn't the type of psychology I was interested in. I didn't want to learn about parts of the brain and, dynamics of social dynamics, whatever. I'm just interested in practical situational psychology, like why people do what they do when they're put in certain circumstances. And with what I do, literally, I don't know of anything else that you can test that daily. Like, because like you said, it's like I meet thousands of people and And I walk up to groups cold, you know, it's like, I'm at this event, there's 500 people here. I'm here for the next 2 hours, go, you know, and I just walk up to groups. If this group might only have 2 guys, this one might have 6 people, this one might be a 15 group. And I walk up cold. How you guys doing tonight? And they brought me to walk around and entertain everybody. Like, I'm a mentalist, you know, and then you start. And then you never know who you're going to walk up to. Some people you walk up to, they're in a bad mood. They don't want to talk to you. When I used to do restaurants, when I first started, you know, I was paid by this Italian restaurant to do walk around and basically invade privacy while people were waiting for their food. And, you know, you walk up to people and sometimes they're pissed, you know, they're having a bad day.
Why are you out?
Right.
Pissed, man?
Yeah, exactly. Or, you know, it's like, I can see, you know, I'm glad I'm not your waiter because I can just leave, you know, like after this first trick, I can, you know, dip. But you walk up and people aren't expecting you to be there, and they can just be mean. So it's like, and I had to learn that, like, how do you deal with certain personalities? Because not everybody wants to see what you do. And that's something I learned in high school. I never experienced that. Everybody liked what I did. They wanted to see it, you know, like but then when I started doing it professionally, like, and again, like I said, in corporate world, you're just kind of a piece to the whole event. You know, you're not really that important. So people, like, they didn't expect to see a mentalist tonight. They're here trying to do business or whatever. And I might have walked up in the middle of a like important conversation. I'm trying to get your attention, and all right, we'll stop that for about 7 minutes and let me talk to you and show you these magic tricks. And they're like, no, get out of here. You know, so.
Interesting, man. So do you feel like you're able, you know, there's a whole industry of just doing predictive models on human psychology and behavior. And you kind of have this sort of subconscious built-in sort of calculator that you're able. How do you apply it to real life? Or do you ever apply it to real life?
People always wonder that, you know, they always wonder what dating me is like, you know, like that's what women always ask that, because they think that, and people just naturally think I walk around like Sherlock Holmes and I see everything, you know, and that's not how it works. You know, I can turn it on and off. You know, there's little things that, you know, you can tell. Like, a classic trick is like, you can tell if a person's left or right-handed based on the direction their belt is pointing. Because if they're left-handed, they put on belts a different way, and it'll be on that side. You know what I mean? And you can also sometimes tell with a watch, but sometimes people that are right-handed, they like put it on the right wrist just because, like. Yeah. But typically, people that are right-handed, they wear it on the left. You know, there's little things like that, so you can, you know, get these little reads on people. But yeah, sorry, what was the original question?
Are you able to, when it comes to like your everyday life, how your interactions with people, are you able? Because you seem like a guy who's pretty laid back, so I don't see you kind of calling things out as they're happening, or like. No,
I don't.
But I'm assuming that, you know, you're a person whose brain seems like is prime for paying attention to patterns and just observation and prediction. So I'm assuming that there are certain situations that maybe your friends are in, and you're like, dude, like the way, you know, if you handle it this way, it'll turn out that way, or you know.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, I do think I am that person. Whether or not they listen to me is very rare. But what you just said, though, is my definition of what intuition is. It's your brain's ability to recognize patterns based on experience, you know. So, and I think that, you know, circling way back to like what I talked about psychics and mediums for a second, you know, I believe that that's all they're really doing. Like, I personally, and again, I'm not, if people believe what they want, but I personally don't think that there's anyone that can talk to the dead or like read minds for real. I mean, I think if they could do that, they wouldn't be set up on Route 40 doing it for money. Like, that's my opinion. But like, you know, maybe there's 8 billion people on the planet. How would we know? I think if you could really do it, you wouldn't want the attention. So maybe you are doing it. You wouldn't be doing it for money. But I think with those people, you meet enough people over time, like I do, you do start to recognize and see these patterns, and you just kind of know what to do. And there's 2 types of psychics. There's open eye and shut eye, or there's wide eye and shut eye psychics. And I think, I can't remember which one's which, honestly. I think shut eye psychic is someone who knows that they're not psychic, but pretends. And a wide eye, they believe they drink their own Kool-Aid, you know, like they think they are. But I do think that with those people, and I've experienced myself, you can get to the point where you are so good at taking intuitive guesses or targeted guesses that you do start to feel psychic. And it's like, damn, like, how'd I know that? Like, I just threw that out there and it hit, and it's crazy. And, you know, I've stolen a couple little tricks from the psychic world, and I use it in what I do. And when it hits sometimes, like, you do get like a little adrenaline rush, and it's like, damn, how'd that work?
It's funny, for me being a person who talks a lot and consumes so much news and media. I'm to the point now where I can finish people's sentences very often to a point where it's annoying. When I think about my wife, like, we'll be having a heated discussion and I'm kind of just like,
you already know where it's about to go.
Just finish the sentence.
Right.
Like, because I'm more, and it made me like an impatient person because I'm always just on the move and I'm like just, so language to me started not meaning as much as like action and feeling. And I would hate to have like these back and forth conversations. I'm like, this is what we're going to talk about. It's going to, but what do I say that for? That was a side note. You talked about, you mentioned your dad a few times. So is he impressed now?
It took him a while to get on board. He wouldn't want me to share this, but it's true. So he never wanted me to pursue magic when I was younger. Like, obviously he was just being a responsible father. He didn't go to college. He was always a blue collar guy, just worked really hard. So he wanted me to go to college and I was good at school. School came easy to me. I was always been pretty smart. I had like 3.7 GPA, on a roll every quarter. I have a box of letters at my dad's house from all the, a lot of top universities that wanted me to come to their school. Nice. And to me, I just didn't want to do that. I found this thing that I felt like I could really take far and I wanted to, pursue it. And my dad didn't like that. And he wanted me to go to college. He wanted me to do the things he wish he would have done, which, you can respect, especially when you get older. But yeah, he was definitely really hard on me and, we had a really tough relationship and I moved out of the house when I was like 19 and he basically made me go to college, before that. But he realized he made too much money to help me get any financial aid. But he told me, well, you're on your own and you still have to go. So I was like, great. So to kind of spite him, I went to school for theater performance. Okay. So because I was like, all right, I'm going to go to college. Well, I'm going to do something that makes me better at magic, and that's literally what I did. And I, went to school for that. And our relationship was complicated until I got signed to Carnival. And then he started seeing how
Carnival Cruise
Lines. Yeah. So like I said, I think I was 20 when I got signed and then 21 when I did my first cruise contract.
Got it.
And then when that happened, that was the first legitimate thing that he saw, especially being at that age. And when I got signed to Carnival, I was the youngest featured performer in the entire cruise industry. And I'm pretty sure I'm probably still in the top 5. It is not like a young guy's game. Most people that are headliners on ships, singers, hypnotists, jugglers, whatever, they're all in their late 30s, mid 40s at least. Because cruise industries are in the entertainment world are notoriously the hardest industry to get into. Wow. Because it's it's not because the talent is so great. I think it's just hard because once you're on the roster, you're kind of just there. It's kind of yours to lose. And that's why it's a cushy job. There's guys that have been doing cruise ships for literally 2 decades. And because it's easy, you don't have to work for it. I get emails, every month that we have these dates available, are you available? And you either just say yes or no.
Wow.
And then they take care of everything else. They'll book the flights. They'll get you, all you have to do is show up at that point. And nothing on land is like that. I got to do all my own advertising. People call, I got to sell it. I got to send them the contracts. I got to blah, 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 all that. Cruises are just easy. You just say yes or no. And then everything else kind of takes care of itself. So a lot of guys, they get comfortable with that and they start doing it more and more. But what it does, and I learned this before COVID, is it kills your land business, at least in my experience. Because it got to that point where I was young. So I went from just doing restaurants and the occasional private party to making 10 times what I would make, just doing cruise ships. So I was just taking everyone that I could. This was the next level for me. I was like, I had to do this. I was, it looked impressive for social media, that type of thing. But what happened was I was gone so much that when people started reaching out to me and hey, we want to book you for this or whatever, it's well, I'm not available. I'm going to be on a ship. Sorry. And I would hand the gig off to a friend and get a small percentage. But a lot of my business is built on word of mouth and built on seeing what I do in person.
Okay.
A lot of people that hire me for events, it's because they saw me in events. They know it works, whatever. But when you're not doing these events or you're handing the business off to someone else, those emails stop coming in. And next thing you know, all you have is cruise ships. And I kind of got at that point where I was so dependent on them. And then when I would go 3 months of without doing one for whatever reason, now I'm I'm stressing because now I don't have other business coming in. So COVID for me was a great reset because everybody got put down at the same level again and you had to figure it out. And now that I've been doing them consistently again since I've been back, I only accept a certain amount every year. I've this year, 2024, I think I turned down 12. just because I was like, I only want to do like 7 this year maximum because I have a lot of stuff going on land. I don't want to sacrifice. And also sometimes, like, especially around North Virginia area, DC, I can make just as much, sometimes more than what I'm doing on ships. But I only have to drive 40 minutes away and I'm gonna sleep in my bed tonight. I don't have to be gone for 4 days, you know, like, so that's, to me, it was important, you know, that I didn't want to get trapped doing that.
How do you see call it an industry, I guess? What do you call it? Mentalist industry, magic industry?
It's just magic. It's all blanket. So magic is like music. So where it's like, there's a lot of genres, and mentalism, you know, card magic, coin magic, illusions, they're all just genres of magic.
So how has it evolved much from when you first started at 14, and where do you see it going?
Yeah, it's definitely evolved a lot. When I was starting off, I mean, you know, Blaine was still the guy. Like, it was Blaine and Chris Angel. They were like the two. And I actually have Blaine's logo right here. He was the guy who got me, like,
forgot about Chris Angel. Man.
Yeah, most people do. You should forget about him.
Did he do something crazy?
No, he's just a terrible dude. Like, he's notorious in the magic world and the Vegas scene. I have a lot of older friends that are in Vegas and whatever. He's just notoriously one of the worst dudes in show business.
Damn.
Stabs everyone in the back, just like cares about no one but himself. Like, I mean, if you go back and watch his stuff, he was very culturally big when what came out. But if you go back and watch his stuff now, it's so corny and just trash because he used paid actors, camera tricks, like so much, dude. And people don't remember it just because you remember Mind Freak, you know, and you remember all that stuff. But like, you don't like, if you go back and watch it now, it's just so obvious and like, it's actually childish. Like, I read on comments and stuff a lot on YouTube. People are like, man, I used to think Chris Angel stuff was so cool when I was a kid. I just went back and rewatched a bunch of stuff. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. But that was his whole thing. He blew up for kids. But I will say Chris Angel has the best brand, I think, that's ever been accomplished by a magician. I think Chris Angel is just an amazing name. He didn't even come up with it, by the way. But Chris Angel, and his logo and the flyer with him floating with the Jesus, you know, thing, and his abs out, you know, like, great brand. And I think that as a brand, he was bigger than Blaine, but everybody knows Blaine's a better magician. And he was more
longevity.
Yeah, definitely more longevity. He's still going, you know, but he was just more pure to the art form.
Got it.
Too. And Blaine shifted everything. So a lot of people like don't realize this. Before David Blaine, magicians were TV specials, Copperfield, hair blowing in the winds while they're telling a story about their grandfather, you know, like real, you know, Blaine came and just stripped it all down. He didn't have, you know, patter. He didn't have jokes for his tricks and all these, like, the fluff. He just was like, I'm going to do this raw. I'm going to wear all black. I'm going to have no personality. I'm just going to go. And he actually stole a lot of stuff from the Bible. Like, Jesus used to go from town to town doing miracles. That's the whole concept came from that. So he actually would go from neighborhood to neighborhood in New York, just being this mysterious godlike figure. And he would do these miracles. And then, you know, he was the first guy that took the camera away from himself and he made it about you and about your reactions. And to be honest, like, black people running away screaming magic was not really like on the map until David Blaine started showing it all the time. Like, he started that in a way. So, I mean, they always did from what I've been told, but like, Blaine was the first one who like showed it.
That's the thing about, so that was the not knowing about being a person who as a kid was really into magic. And just, you know, loved it. To be an adult who still, you know, who still watches it from time to time. Mostly people like David Blaine. There is a sense, and I'm a Christian. I'm not like a, you know, crazy. I'm gonna like indoctrinate anybody, but I'm still a Christian. And so there's this weird sense that when you're watching that type of stuff, especially David Blaine, just giving your, I hadn't realized the parallels between the Bible. And now that I'm thinking about it, he does a lot.
If you go back and watch that first special, there is Christ imagery everywhere. Like,
so stuff like that, right? That only, and obviously it's like a marketing ploy, and it
for sure
create this energy that you are mystical, divine figure. But that's like the problematic. To me, that's problematic. That you know, when you make those comparisons between yourself, right? But I do feel like, and this goes to a whole different topic, but I do feel like there are definitely people who have a sixth sense, who have something more than just, who seem to have something more than intuition, that don't talk about it. They're not the people who are out professionally doing it. These are just people that I know. Those people tend to be people, they weren't in the in crowd. They didn't have many, you know, maybe some friends, but they were kind of a person who observed a lot.
Observers.
I know for me, man, growing up, I felt like such a socially awkward kid. A lot of what I did was, I paid attention a lot to people and how they spoke, how they moved, how they acted, because I was a kid trying to find my own identity. And it's crazy because you develop that muscle in your mind. And now I use that like on a professional level for marketing. But I'm not nowhere near as intuitive as someone like you. But there's a lot of people around me say I have this intuition, but really what it is I just I'm always in the clouds, man. I'm not paying attention to what's happening in front of me. A lot of what I do is like observing other things.
I think that's where street smarts come from.
Yeah, street smarts,
Yeah, I think it comes from observing and seeing what happens when people do things, and it's more just, you watch and you learn.
But no, it's really dope to hear how your street smarts kind of lent itself to doing something that's, that you really, really enjoy doing.
Yeah. It's tough, bro. It's there's a lot that goes into it, like I said, and once you make anything into a business, it changes, you know. So the things that I was dreaming about and doing in high school, when they come to fruition, and still building towards that, but it's different. But it's fun.
You see yourself doing this forever? Like retiring doing this?
I think I'll always do it in some capacity, yeah. I think my goals have just changed as I've gotten older. And I think you actually asked this earlier, and I never finished answering the question because I went off on a tangent, but you asked, has the art of magic changed?
Yes, that was the question.
Yeah, you asked if what was it like then and compared to now? Well, back then, Blaine, Angel, they were the guys, and Magic kind of blown up. But now it's all social media stuff. And now I really think it's going to be hard for a superstar to come from Magic now, because more so than ever before, Magic is so easily accessible. You can go on Instagram, type in magic trick, all of a sudden 3,000 guys you've never seen or heard of pop up on your feed, and some of them do this crazy visual stuff in their bedroom, but it's like, but that's it, like they can't really perform for groups of people, they can't really perform on stage, but they've mastered how to perform to a camera alone. And that's kind of what Magic is becoming now, and it just kind of cheapens it in a way. I mean, there's stuff that it's incredible and takes a lot of skill and practice, but back in the day, you could practice in front of your mirror for hours and master something, but you had to go out and show it if you wanted to get appreciated. But now you don't have to do that. You can just show it to a camera, upload it, and all of a sudden, and you get, more likes than someone like I'd get, on certain things. So it's just shifted, and now it's so much, and not only that, but the exposure too. YouTube has and even Instagram, there's a lot of accounts where they just expose magic tricks for clicks, or they make it funny when they do it. You know what I mean? It has really hurt Magic. And I honestly think that Magic is kind of a dying art form, unfortunately.
Do you think, because I feel like that's happening with a lot of different industries.
I think so, yeah.
Sort of the social media being the epicenter of everything.
Yeah.
And it changes the way people are consuming this stuff now differently too. So now you don't have the same incentive even to go to a movie, right?
That's true.
Watch it on Prime or whatever.
I'm a movie guy.
Yeah,
I loved going to the theaters back when it was a thing and be full.
Yeah. Do you think that instead of it being a dying art form, it can actually help propel and push people to do more creative, different types of things?
I think like any art form, it evolves. I mean, I say it's dying. I think what I know of it is dying, but guys, when I was a kid, when they that were old timers, they thought it was dying then. I mean,
now you're just old man now.
Yeah, it's like because it's just not what they remember it being. Yeah. I will say though, the golden age of Magic, everybody considers to be the golden age, was like 200 years ago. Like back in the 1800s, Magic was much more respected, because now too, with secrets, YouTube, how I started, like there's literally hundreds of Magic websites where you can buy tricks, and there's a whole industry of just creating and selling tricks to magicians. So it's become so commercialized now. It's like you can, learn how to do something. It's like, $30, and now you got the secret, and whether you do it or not, doesn't matter to them. They just made the money off of it. But back in the day, in the 1800s, you had to have like a mentor to teach you. Like you couldn't just learn magic tricks on your own. So like they would do theaters though. They were actually like prestigious types of guys. Like I'm talking like Victoria era London, where you couldn't just go up on stage and be bad. Like that was the premier form of entertainment back then. And the guys who were big back then, guys like Harry Keller, Howard Thurston, these are all the guys who were the most famous magicians of all time before Houdini. And they were like the fathers of modern magic. And they, in today's money, were worth like hundreds of millions of dollars, because they were the premier entertainers, not just magicians, like entertainers. Yeah, because they have such a unique skill set. And this is back before information, you know, and technology was really blowing up. They had very basic levels of it, but you still weren't sure if this guy actually had magical powers or not sometimes, you know, and then they presented it in a certain way and you'd see things that, you know, were truly incredible. Now, iPhones are the most incredible thing on the planet. Like that's actually magic. Like the fact that you can touch a thing somewhere and all of a sudden you're talking to someone on the other side of the world. Back then, they didn't have anything close to that. So what you saw on stage, that was real magic.
Yeah.
But now we're surrounded by real magic.
We're surrounded, man. I don't know if you saw we have to go soon. I don't know if you saw that new AI, that Sora AI thing.
Oh yeah.
They produce these videos that are so hyper realistic and this is a year after they did the Will Smith spaghetti video and the evolution of it so quickly.
It happens so
quick. You just wonder like what, you know, with access to technology and the fact that people are no longer, they're like screen prone more than real life prone. Yeah, like this type of stuff, the type of demand for I wonder what type of demand for what type of magic. Like if the industry completely upends itself, it becomes a whole different type of beast that's like digitally focused or something, you know?
Yeah, it kind of is already going that way. I think for me, you know, and I know we got to wrap up, but like doing it in person has become so much different, but it's so much harder to grow now and progress because it is so digital based. But when you see what I do in person, I know we're going to film something in a little while, like, you know, you still can tap into that feeling that people get because it's like, oh, this isn't on my phone. This is real. This is happening right in front of me. This isn't like the stuff I've seen on social media that I'm not sure if it's real or not. Maybe the guy's just lying or they're actors or whatever, special effects now, because we can literally fake anything with AI now. But when you see it and experience it in person, that's like the one hope. But again, it's so hard because the only way to get out there and promote yourself is digital, but the art form is needed in person. And like you said, people won't even go to the movies anymore. Yeah. So where it's going to end up in years, only time will tell. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, but like any art form, any industry, it's constantly evolving. And right now it might just be in a little bit of a dip, but then it can completely change course in a couple years and who knows.
Well, speaking of in person, man, I bought my some people that want to see you do your thing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
A friend of mine, so we can get started.
All right, thanks for having me, bro. All right, cool. We'll start with something simple, just so I can learn how you guys think. We'll go from there. I have a couple of dice. I'll give one to you, give one to you, and I'll give one to you. Now, I went to a pretty tough school growing up in Baltimore. That's a place where you could walk in the bathroom at any given point during the day, and people were shooting dice on the floor. Okay. And this is actually something I started doing in honor of that, I guess you could say. So what I want y'all to do is shake those up. You can use the couch next to you, whatever is comfortable. But drop them on the couch. Leave your hands cupped on top so you can't see the number. I can't see the number. It's there too. I'm going to look away. You're kind of right here, so I'll just kind of cover. When I do, everybody open up your hand just enough so you can see the number that's on top and then cover it again, okay? Let me know when I can look. Okay. Everybody good? Mm-hmm. All right. So don't tell me your number, but tell me any number between 1 and 6, but not your number. And I'm going to try to reverse engineer. 2. So most people, when they lie, they only go 1 or 2 away from what it actually is, right? Okay. But you don't look like you think like most people. So I think you would have went more than 2 away. I would guess 5. Do you have 5? Let's see. There it is. I'll give that back to you. All right, same thing, Johnson. Tell me any number between 1 and 6, but not your number.
You said between 1 and 6.
Yeah, there's only 6 on the dice. Yeah.
Right, so like 1.
Okay, so the second person normally does the opposite of whatever the first person does. Okay. Normally, but I don't think you think normal either. So I think if she went more than 2 away, you probably would too. And I don't think you would have. You'd be close to 5. Do you have 4? Let's see. Nice. Now, last person's always the hardest because you've heard my thought process, right? So it could go either way. So between 1 and 6.
1.
Yeah, you're not supposed to tell me the number you actually have. You have 1, yeah? Yeah.
I did that on purpose.
I know.
That's crazy.
Oh, wow.
That is crazy.
Let's do it one more time. One more time, a little bit different. So pick them up, shake it. If you get the same number, feel free to change. People think that I'm using loaded dice. I'm not. So
that's literally what I thought.
Yeah, that's the dice.
I know.
Yeah, okay. The dice looks normal.
Actually, let's do this. Instead of leaving it to chance, why don't you just choose? So instead of letting the die choose, you just think of the number you want and you put it so that one's on top. So if you want number 1, you put 1 on top, then you cover it. Same thing as you did before, but this time you're going to pick the number you actually want, place it down, put your hand on top. I'll cover my eyes again. But everyone do that. Let me know when you're good.
Okay.
Everybody good?
Yes.
Okay, good. Same thing as before, but don't say anything out loud this time. Okay, so this time you're going to think of a different number between 1 and 6. You're going to do the same thing, except you're just not going to give it away this time.
Okay.
Okay, so you're thinking of a number that's not your number now, yeah? Are you thinking of 6?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So 3.
What? Let's see.
It's 3. It was 3.
What the hell?
Same thing. So just think of a different number. Don't say it though. Not your number. Well, you said it. I said don't say it. It's 4. Don't worry about it. All right. 2. Well, you told me. I didn't want you guys to tell
You
me.
can't.
You said think of a number.
Yeah, but I just said
can't
don't
say
say it. Don't say it. It's fine. 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
It's 6.
It's 6.
Everyone who has 1 always goes for 6 after. It's the polar opposite.
That's literally what I was thinking about too. I was like, well, I guess 1, so I'll go with 6.
Yeah.
But I went like, now I'll mess them up. And I was a 4.
That's what I said. I said, I'll go with something different, but not 1 or not 6. So I'll do 3.
How predictable are we?
That's just the word about. Yeah. It's not about predictability. Sometimes it is, not always. I'll show you though, one of my favorite games in high school. So I told you I was around like hustlers, that type of mentality. That was just natural being at the school that I was at. But there was one game, the game that actually we used to play for money. We played $1 a game. Okay, so get your wallet out. I'll do that.
It's like,
Yeah, please no. I have a coin for you here. This is was my grandfather, so please be careful. It is a JFK coin, so you can see Kennedy on the front and American Eagle on the back. You can go ahead and look at that make sure it is what it appears to be.
yeah, it's a real coin.
Perfect. So what you're going to do is you're going to go behind your back with both hands, and you're going to place it in one of your hands, and then bring both of them back out in front of you like this, and try and make them look the same. So basically what kids would do, and I remember watching people play this, and they play $1 per game. So if they got it right, if I guessed it right, you would pay me $1. If I guessed it wrong, I would pay you $1. And I would watch kids play this, and some kids would make like a lot of money every day, maybe like $20 a game. But when I started learning more about magic and psychology, I used that in combination with, I think, just my natural ability to kind of read people. And I used to have a pretty profitable little side hustle. That's cool. So move your hands towards me a little bit and spread them just a little bit. So are you naturally right-handed or are you a lefty?
I mean, naturally, like just writing.
Yeah. Are you right-handed?
Yeah, right-handed.
Okay. So most people, when they play this game, they put it in their dominant hand to start because it's stronger. They feel like they can control it more. I think you probably would have done that too, and it's in your right hand. Yeah. Good. That's just a 50-50. We'll do it a few more times. Go behind your back again. Now, the second game is always the most interesting because this is when the pattern's established. Because you're either going to put it in the same hand twice or you're going to switch hands.
That's the only options we have.
Exactly. But either way, it's going to tell me something about how you think.
Okay.
Okay. So again, spread your hands a little bit. So like I said, it either could go in your right hand or it could go in your left. But let me ask you, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
Good question. What did I have for breakfast this morning? Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay. Duncan, what'd you have? Did you have coffee or did you get some food too?
I got both.
You got both?
Yeah.
I think left hand. There you go. Let's do it again. Let's do
How
it
does
again.
the questions have anything to do
That's for
with...
me to know. And you do it again. Do it again. We'll do 2 more times. So this time, let's make the game a little bit more interesting. I don't normally carry too much cash on me, but I knew I was going to talk about my high school today and do this. So I have, let's see, we'll go 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, $5. We'll put $5 on the game. So you went right hand first, then you switched to left hand. So now we have to ask ourselves, is going to keep the pattern, which is switching, or are you going to take this time to break the pattern and keep it in the same hand twice? Okay, what do you think? Do you think you would keep the pattern and go right, left, right? Or do you think you would break it?
Break it.
He'll
You
keep
think
it.
break, keep?
It's going to go to the left hand.
So break the pattern.
Break the
So,
pattern.
okay.
Wasn't the left hand the last one?
It was in the left hand the last
So
one.
he'll keep it.
You
Yeah,
think
I think
yeah.
he'll keep it on left hand. That's breaking the pattern.
I think
Oh,
Barry's
break it.
pretty good at reading you too. I think you would have done left hand also.
Yay!
Let's go one more time. Last
I'll
round.
play poker with this guy. So
Yeah.
I'm starting to learn a
Used to it,
little more.
You're here for tonight.
We'll do this. We'll go, I'll put it all. So 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 5. And does your Apple Watch come off?
Yeah.
Can I see it just for a second?
Good luck. You're going to lose your Apple.
And her watch. So $105. And her watch so that I can get it one last time. So you went right hand first, then you went left, left. So I don't know. It could go either way at this time. And sometimes there are little tells that you can look for. You look for the thumb. Sometimes yours are exactly symmetrical now, though, so you're not giving that away.
I would like to believe so.
Yeah, and sometimes now you've had a couple chances to play, so now you know, like, more time to think about it. Sometimes the nose also gives it away, the direction. But you're going to do something. You're going to do something right now that I'm making you aware of your face that's going to give it away.
Hopefully.
Yeah, there was. It was this one.
Yeah.
I know.
I know. It was a smile that kind of went down. Maybe. I don't know.
So,
Well, at least I got my watch
good.
back.
You're kind of looking at it.
I'll hold on to that. I'll hold on to that. You guys have a good one.
Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you, guys.
We didn't do the envelope.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So, yeah, I'll finish off with
Yeah.
this one.
Okay.
now.
Cool.
So just to keep you guys aware, when Derrick and I FaceTime like weeks ago, when we were first planning on doing this, I told him over FaceTime to think of something that he can draw. I told him to change his mind as many times as he wants. But then I also told you to draw it on a piece of paper, fold it inside an envelope, seal it with you, and make sure we have it here today. And we have it over there.
All right.
Can we actually get that?
Yeah. You mind holding this one?
We're going to do something else too. Which of your
it's
aunties do you want to do this with?
Well, she's recording.
Okay, I'll do this with you.
Is it recording?
Yeah. Think of something that you can draw. Something simple that we would instantly recognize. Okay. I'm not going to ask you what it is. I'm just going to give you this. And I'm going to give you this. And whatever it is that you're thinking of, I want you to draw on the back of that as big as you can. Don't show it to anybody, though. Don't let the camera see either. Actually, I forgot to have this one. When you're done, just turn it face down. Don't throw it to the camera or anything. That's why I asked if you could notes. Perfect. You finished? Okay, I have an envelope here. Do you have any idea what's inside this envelope?
No,
No?
none.
It's another envelope. That's it. All right, keep it face down though, but go ahead and this one has a couple X's on it to keep it opaque. Keep it face down, but slide it in the top envelope here.
I have to come all the way over there.
I can't. Yeah, I'll meet you halfway. Okay, I'll get it.
There we go.
Perfect. Now, is there a reason that you drew whatever this thing is, or it just kind of popped into your head?
That's my head.
Okay. Is there any way anyone here could know the thing that you drew?
Well, I think Derek saw that aside from that now.
Okay. Well, he's thinking of something too that so he's not in on it because
Okay.
he has something that I'm going to try and guess too. The reason I hold it in two though is hold that up to the light, make sure you can't see through either side yet.
Nope.
Perfect. And Derrick, do you have the one that you drew on?
Yeah.
Can I have it just for a second? And this is genuinely the first, since it's been sealed in this envelope, this is the first time I've ever touched it.
Okay.
Yes?
The first time you ever touched it?
Since it's been sealed in this
It's been
envelope.
sealed in an envelope.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm not going to look at it. I mean, you can't see through it either, but I'll kind of place these right here so the camera can see. Now we have two pictures in two envelopes. I want you to think of what it is that you drew. Now you've had weeks to change your mind and think about different things. She's just thinking of something in the moment. I want you to imagine redrawing this thing in your mind, but just the first line that you would draw.
Just the first line?
Don't tell me
Okay.
what it is, just to really feel yourself doing it.
Mhm.
Did you draw like a curved line?
Mhm.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay. Does this thing have an actual name or is it like an abstract shape or something?
It has a name.
Okay. Can you think of the word itself?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know exactly how many letters are in the word? Don't tell me, but
Yep.
you do? Okay. Is that 6 letters? 5?
No, it's neither one.
Okay. Interesting. Is there a distinct color that can kind of be associated with this thing?
No.
No. Okay. Could you tell us the reason you went for this without giving it away?
It popped up in my head 3 days ago.
3 days ago.
2 days ago, excuse me.
2 days ago. Okay.
It just popped up.
I think you would have done something and you would have given it like a little bit of extra detail. Yeah. You wouldn't have just,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe a little bit.
I drew this. I thought about this. I've been thinking about this for weeks, but I thought about it. It popped in my head too.
Really?
No way.
Okay. We'll come back to it.
Okay.
Okay. But I'll leave it here. Moment of truth. Now, again, like I said, this is the first time nobody's seen this. Your wife doesn't even know what you drew. Like
No one knows.
no one except you. Okay. So is this a Nerf football?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah,
Very interesting. We'll come back to that, but interesting. But you're thinking of something as well.
Mhm.
Yes. I want you to imagine drawing the first line that you would draw. Okay.
Okay.
Just the first line.
Okay.
Okay. Now I've only met you now for about 10 minutes, so I don't really know too much about you. What's a hobby that you have?
Work.
What do you do for work? What do you do?
I'm an IT.
You're an IT? Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a consultant?
I am.
Oh, so you do nothing for work.
I wish.
Yeah. What's your favorite color?
Green.
Okay. Do you have a favorite movie? Or are you a TV show person?
I'm more of a TV show person.
What's the show you're watching?
There's so many.
Just give me one real quick.
The Equalizer.
Okay. With Queen Latifah?
Yes.
Imagine you drawing the first line and you're drawing, if you had to draw it again, just the first line. Don't say what it was. Okay, that time was a circle.
I'm sorry.
A circle? Was that the first thing you drew?
That was.
Yeah, okay, good. Draw the next thing that you would draw.
A line.
Well, don't tell me.
In your mind.
Yeah. Draw the next thing that you would draw. Don't say anything out. If you give it to me for free, it makes the mind reading part really easy. Okay, draw the next thing. I think that was another line. Yeah, I think it was a different direction, but it was another line. Yeah. Yeah? Okay, good. Draw the next thing. I don't think this is too much. I mean, I only gave you a little bit of time to like draw this, but I think there's not too many other lines. You would have done something else though, like something you would have put it inside the drawing somehow. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Makes perfect sense.
It's a curved line too, I think, of some sort. There's one, that's one, and then there's two little something else that's the same. Okay, I'm just gonna go with this. I think though I can see I was pretty close. Now let's see what was in your drawing. I'm kidding. It's a stick person. A very good stick person, by the way. A very good stick person. Is there a reason that you drew that, or just kind of popped into your head?
It popped in my head.
You
Easy
just
to
literally,
draw.
did you ever think of something else before you went for that?
I did.
You did? What was the other thing that you almost went for?
A sun.
A sun, but then you switched to a stick person. Interesting. I actually did draw. Where is it?
Oh my goodness. There's no way.
Smile on the
That's
curve
insane.
line. My arms are going down, though. I know.
Okay.
This guy sucks.
Wow.
you were
Let's
excited.
see.
She wasn't.
I know, clearly.
We do that for Derrick's stuff.
But the one that Derrick drew that you've been thinking about
Yeah.
for a long time, which is
Jesus.
a lot more, a little crazier. Now, I didn't get it spot on. Sometimes I draw just what I was feeling with, like shapes. But it was pretty close. I didn't even really know what it was when I was drawing it. I could kind of just see that it was shapes, but
Oh,
I
wow.
did get
Oh my
a
goodness.
little bit. I didn't get the Nerf, but
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Shut the front door, as they say.
Well, there's many reasons why this.
Yeah, why did you pick that one?
Yeah,
That's
that's-
like
Because who
I've
the hell's
never
gonna pick a
gotten
Nerf ball?
I've never gotten
obvious.
it.
He did.
Because it's confusing, right? So like, I could have done a football and a Nerf ball, right? Because it's so specific. And let me tell you the crazy thing about this part of it is that I Googled, not today. I was like, I don't know how he's going to work this, but I'm going to figure it out. So it popped in my head 2 or 3 days ago, and then I left it alone. And then like yesterday, I just quickly Googled. I'm like, I don't know if he has my shit encrypted. I don't know if he's maybe, so I'll Google Nerf ball, and you would think a whole bunch pop up. But the one that was in my mind, there are a lot of different types, so a whole bunch popped up. But the one that was in my mind was this type, which is a little older, I guess now.
Yeah, that was like
So there's like one photo of it, and I was like, okay, don't look at it again. Just look at it once. So I'm like, pay attention. So I paid really close attention to it, because I don't know how to draw. I paid really close attention to this part to try to get this part right. So the fact that you
had
did
that.
This is prettier than mine, though.
And then this part, I was like, I need to add a little bit of. So that was like the last thing I did was a little detail right here. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yes.
I don't know, man.
I mean, mine was so simple.
He just sat here for 40 minutes telling me it's not magic.
I can't draw.
Right. Right. I knew it was because she can't draw. That's why. I'm the
You
sick
can't be the
person.
camera person. So
Yeah, we should have done the opposite.
Yeah, because
Draw. Come up with something intricate.
I thought this was it. I'm like,
Yours is
gonna get a
intricate.
nerve.
Mine wasn't.
hey, man, thank you for coming, man.
yeah, thanks for hanging.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I know you got a hard stop
amazing.
now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.